Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. I often say, beware resume statements. A resume statement is when someone under suspicion unexpectedly gives us a statement about their achievements to show what a good person they are. Step forward, Brooks Houck, boyfriend of missing woman, Crystal Rogers.
I feel like I've worked hard to get a good education. I've worked hard all these years. I've built a nice life for me and my family, and now my whole family's name is trashed for something that's completely not even tied to me.
He gives one of the most deceptive police interviews I've ever seen. And I'll tell you why in this episode from Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said, and then I'll use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the motivations of a person. It's a process that I use with investigators, with the media, and with corporate clients to get a deep understanding of what is being said. So the case, Crystal Rogers went missing in 2015. She has never been found. Now, currently, at the time of recording, two men are on trial in connection with her murder. One of those is her boyfriend at the time she went missing, a guy called Brooks Houck. And it's his formal police interview that we're going to watch. Now, what we're going to look for here is lying, or the lack of it, because lying is really hard. It's just much more involved, much more stressful. It's harder work than telling the truth. It's just plain hard to lie. We prefer to be honest, even if that's a deceptive kind of honest, as we'll see when we sit in this police interview with Brooks Houck. Let's have a listen.
So you guys get home 20 minutes after 12, right thereabouts. I think you said you went to bed first. Do you remember about how long you were home before you went to bed?
I went to bed immediately.
So when you guys got in, you went and did your nightly routine and you're going to bed. I think you told me that she stayed up, and Eli, did he stay up as well?
He was.
And where was she at when?
If there's any activity going on in the house, he doesn't want to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody turn the lights out and we just go out in the bed, he's going to follow us in there and lay down with us. But if I go to bed and she stays up, he's not going to come in there to bed till all the lights are out and then she goes to bed. If I was doing something out there and she was in the bed, he's going to stay up with me until the lights are out, until I go in there. Do you see what I'm...
Sure.
Yeah. So that's what
he's going to stay up with Mom.
So what I've done here is, it's a very long police interview. I'm only going to look at the part where he talks about the last time he saw Crystal before she disappeared, in his words, and also the morning when he realised that Crystal was missing. So this is him talking about going to bed, the last time, in his words, that he saw Crystal. Now, Brooks, I don't think, is the most complicated of people, so I'm not going to be picking on too many of his individual word choices. What I'm going to look at is the themes that he uses, and he uses some big ones. So let's get into the question. You guys get home 20 minutes after 12, right thereabouts. I think you said you went to bed first. Do you remember about how long you were home before you went to bed? And he says, I went to bed immediately. Very straightforward. I believe that. Whether Crystal was there, Crystal wasn't, whether anything else had happened that night, I think when he got home, he went to bed immediately. It's very straightforward. There's nothing persuasive in there. There's no indications of any deception whatsoever. I went to bed immediately. So when you guys got in, he's asked, so when you guys got in, you went and you did your nightly routine and you're going to bed. I think you told me that she stayed up, and Eli, did he stay up as well? He was up, is what he says. Now, again, that's very straightforward and very simplistic. Eli was up when he went to bed. No indicators of deception there whatsoever. And what was she at? Now, that's a question about Crystal. What was she at? And Brooks doesn't talk about Crystal at all. Instead, he goes on to talk about Eli, which is their son. I think he was about 2, coming up for 3 at the time. Talks about Eli's routine. Not even what Eli did that night, the last time that any of them saw Crystal. Just talks in general. If there's any activity going on in the house, he doesn't want to go to bed. So we've got here just an answer that's not about the question that he was asked, which is what was Crystal doing. It's an answer about Eli, the son, and in general, not about that night. It's not, there was some activity going on. Crystal had stayed up, and when Crystal stays up, he wants to stay up. No. It's just this general statement. If there's any activity going on in the house, he doesn't want to go to bed. So I've already now got my red flags for deception up. Why is he not talking about Crystal? And why is he talking in general about Eli? Worth noting, it's not something we're going to see here, but I've watched a lot of this interview. And he said earlier that Eli's normal bedtime was about 7 or 8, I think. Now, this is supposedly happening after midnight. So what he's saying, if we brought it all together, was that he'll go to bed at 7 or 8, but they both go to bed at 7 or 8 as well, because that's when it has to happen. Or, yeah, this is not hanging together. He carries on. If everybody turned their lights out and we just go out in the bed, he's going to follow us in there and lay down with us. But if I go to bed and she stays up, he's not going to come in there to bed until all the lights are out. And then she goes to bed. If I was doing something like that and she was in the bed, he's going to stay up with me until the lights are out, until I go in there. So again, this is just all in general. Nothing to do with Crystal that night, nothing specific about Crystal the last time you're supposed to have seen her. Instead, it's this general story about Eli's bedtime routine. And I found it very interesting, this combination of lights out. He mentions lights out a long time here. So although the first thing he says is if there's any activity going on in the house, he doesn't want to go to bed, he then ties that to not activity, but whether the lights are on or off. If everybody turned their lights out and we just go off to bed, he's going to follow us. He's not going to come in there to bed until all the lights are out. He's going to stay up with me until the lights are out, until I go in there. So for some reason, he's got lights out as a huge priority in his head. Do you see what and he's going to say, see what I'm saying. The detective realizes that he hasn't spoken about Crystal at all here. Do you see what he says, sure, he's going to stay with his mom, is what the detective says. So in this very first answer that we're looking at, I see some short, sharp facts. I believe he went to bed that night as soon as he got in. Don't believe that Crystal was there because he doesn't mention Crystal at all, yet he will. But these answers in general are very worrying. Remember I said, lying is hard. So why lie about what went on that night when you can talk in general about what normally happens? That's easy. Talking about what normally happens is just a very simple thing to do. You just talk about what normally happens. You talk about the routines. Talking specifically, if something has happened that night, if you're not wanting to tell the truth about that night, that's hard. You have to construct a lie. It's very stressful. Am I going to get caught out? Well, I'm not going to get caught out. If I talk in general about what normally happens, and that is what gets me. Now, listen, this is a huge, long police interview. It's nearly 2 hours long. I've only looked at about 15 minutes of it to get this analysis together. If there is enough appetite, let me know in the comments if you want some more of this. I'll also see the viewing figures and the like numbers and so on. If I get enough signals that you want me to do more in this Crystal Rogers case, break down more of this police interview with Brooks, I will happily do that, because this is a police interview like I haven't seen before. So do let me know. Right, let's continue with some more from the interview with Brooks.
Right. So, before you went to bed, or as any conversation, I know you told me that you all had a conversation Friday evening sometime about the kids. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you said you all talked about the kids Friday evening. Does that conversation bleed over to when you get home, or is that conversation done?
No, whenever I got home, I went to bed. I mean, it was relatively, quickly when I got in there. Okay. The conversation does not bleed over.
Okay. So you go to bed, she stays up. What's she doing?
She's just on her phone playing. I don't know what game, but she normally plays a game.
Right.
Some kind. She's got several of them on there, but I don't know which one.
Okay. So she's on her phone messing around, doing whatever, and you go to bed. Do you know what time Eli came to bed, or she put him into bed?
I don't know. I don't have any idea. Okay. I normally go to bed earlier than that, so when I went to sleep, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I wouldn't have noticed, if he crawled in there,
Okay, I think you may have noticed some of the themes that we've already picked out there. So the detective asks about any conversation that he had with Crystal. So before you went to bed, was there any conversation? You told me that you all had a conversation Friday evening sometime about the kids. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you said you talked about the kids Friday evening. Does that conversation bleed over to when you get home, or is that conversation, and that question's not finished? Because Brooks says no. Whenever I got home, I went to bed. Now, he says whenever I got home, and that might seem like he's being a little bit deceptive, but prior to this in the interview, Brooks said that he got home slightly earlier than the detective has worked out he got home. There's some discrepancy going on there. Brooks says he got home earlier. The detective is saying that he got home slightly later, and he's got some video footage that proves that. So that's why that whenever I got home comes in, because there's some debate or doubt about exactly what time Brooks got home. Whenever I got home, I went to bed. I mean, it was relatively, quickly when I got in there. Now, that's slightly different from the I went to bed immediately, which he said earlier. It's just relatively quickly. Relative to what? What does quickly mean? It doesn't hang together with what he said previously, which was he immediately went to bed. When I got in there, the conversation does not bleed over. Now, the first time I heard that, I went, bleed? That's interesting. Actually, he's reflecting the question that was asked, does that conversation bleed over? So he's reflecting back the words that were put to him in the question. The detective says, okay, so you go to bed, she stays up, what's she doing? And he gives an answer, and he gives an answer in the present tense, which can be an indication that this is made up, constructed. You're making it up in the present tense. It's not a past answer. What's she doing? It's not she was on her phone. It's she's, which is she is. She's just on her phone playing. I don't know what game, but she normally plays a game of some kind. So we've got so much going on there. It's in present tense. The question's kind of in present tense. What's she doing? But he does speak in the present tense. Bit of a red flag. She's just on her phone. I always say, potential deception happening when someone says just. Dig into the words around it. She's just on her phone playing. I don't know what game, but she normally plays a game of some kind. Talking in general again, it would have been enough to say she was on her phone playing a game, right? But he goes a little bit extra and tells us this is normally what happens, which is what his tactic seems to be in this interview. Don't talk about the specifics on the last night you were supposed to have seen your girlfriend and the mother of your child. No, just talk in general. She normally plays a game of some kind. She's got several of them on there, but I don't know which one. This is all extra. This, I think, is to convince us that this was normal. It was usual. Just everything was really normal that night. Instead of talking about the specifics, he just says it all fits in with the general pattern. The detective says, so she's on her phone, messing around, doing whatever, and you go to bed. Do you know what time Eli came to bed, or she put him in the bed? Now, this is a tough one for me. He says, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I always say, I don't know is an indicator of likely truth, and I have no idea means you normally do have an idea, and even here he must have an idea. It's between when he went to bed and when he woke up. He does have an idea. I don't know, normally truthful, no idea, often deceptive. I guess this one's even. I'm completely neutral on whether he's telling the truth or deceiving here. And then he goes extra because he's asked, what time does Eli come to bed? He could have just said, I don't know. And then he goes extra, and that extra is, funnily enough, what usually happens. I normally go to bed earlier than that. So when I went to sleep, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I wouldn't have noticed, if he crawled in there, So what do we have going on here? Well, it's this thing of what normally happens. I normally go to bed earlier than that. Completely irrelevant. So when I went to sleep, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. So again, this is in general, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I wouldn't have noticed if he crawled in there, He was asked what time Eli came to bed. Now, bearing in mind the age of Eli, then it's highly likely that in this telling of the story, Crystal would have put Eli to bed. So he wouldn't have crawled in there. It's when he would have been put to bed. However, he's talking about Eli operating without Crystal there. I wouldn't have noticed if he'd crawled in there, You'll notice Crystal is just missing from all that answer. She's in the question. Do you know what time Eli came to bed, or she put him in the bed? And Crystal is completely missing from that answer. So here in this second question that we looked at, just more general answers talking about what usually happened, what normally happened, rather than what did happen that night. Why? Why is he avoiding talking about the specifics that night? It's supposed to be the last time that he saw Crystal. He avoids any specifics apart from he went to bed, and he talks about that with a lot of straightforwardness. So I believe that when he came in that night, he went to bed. However, you'll also notice that this is supposedly the last time he saw his girlfriend, who is now missing, and there is nothing there at all that remarks on the fact that this is the last time he saw her. Either there was nothing up, everything was normal, or I thought there was something strange about her. There's just nothing there to tie this sight of Crystal that night before he went to bed with the fact that this was the last time that he saw her. Let's get some more from this bizarre police interview.
So you said you're a pretty heavy sleeper. So your phone is getting phone calls. I can see it on your phone logs before 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. Do you hear that going off? Do you normally keep it in there?
Yeah, but I don't have to. At that time, I've got an alarms on my phone at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Sometimes I've got them at 4 and at 7. But my alarm most mornings goes off. I always have it for 6 and 7. But I'll wake up before my alarm goes off. But yeah, it's not uncommon for me to get calls really early in the morning.
So what time do you think you got up on Saturday morning?
I probably woke up around, in between that time, like 6 or 7 o'clock, and then I left. I did my normal thing, changed my clothes, put my clothes on, and headed out. Shortly after that,
Wow, so we can just see more of the same things happening again. He's asked, so you said you're a pretty heavy sleeper, so your phone is getting phone calls. I can see it on your phone logs before 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. Do you hear them going off? Do you normally keep it in there? And he says, yeah, but I don't have to. At that time, I've got my alarms on my phone at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Sometimes I've got them at 4 and 7, but my alarms most mornings goes off. He's been asked about phone calls he got on the morning. This is supposedly the Saturday morning when he noticed that Crystal was missing, that she disappeared, that she wasn't there. And he's asked about phone calls that were registered on his phone before 7 o'clock that morning. And he's asked the very specific question, do you hear your phone going off? And he says, yeah. Which I think is to the do you normally keep your phone in there, by the way. And then instead of talking about the phone calls, he diverts and talks about his alarms that he set on his phone. And also not the alarm he had set that Saturday morning, just every alarm he has set in his life apart from that Saturday morning. But I don't have to. At that time, I've got alarms on my phone at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Sometimes I've got them at 4 and 7, but my alarms most morning goes off. So this is him not dealing with these phone calls. These phone calls are obviously highly sensitive to him. If they weren't, he'd just come out and say, I didn't know they went off, or yeah, someone was phoning me, and maybe tell us who was phoning him. Instead, he completely ignores them and talks about his alarms in great detail, more detail than we would ever need to know about someone's alarms. Why? Because there's nothing sensitive about these alarms. It's very easy for him to talk about. Talking about the times that your alarms are set for is really not stressful. I could sit here and tell you about mine and what time I wake up in general. It just would not be stressful at all. It's a very easy conversation to have. So therefore, we can deduce that talking about the phone calls would be stressful. There is something up around these phone calls that were made to him that Saturday morning. He just talks in general. He carries on. I always have it for 6 and 7, but I'll wake up before my alarm goes off. But yeah, it's not uncommon for me to get calls early in the morning. Oh, here's the calls. However, you'll notice he doesn't deal with the ones that Saturday. He just talks again in general. It's not uncommon for me to get calls early in the morning. Notice the way that's stated in the negative. He doesn't say, I always get calls early in the morning. I usually get calls early in the morning. It's not uncommon. I think it is uncommon for him to get calls early in the morning. When we state something in the negative, that's normally where our thoughts and priorities are, in that negative thing, in the uncommon thing. I think it is uncommon for him to get calls that early in the morning. Simply here, he doesn't answer the question. The question was, do you hear the calls go off? And he doesn't mention it. He tells us about his alarm, and he tells us about how it's not uncommon. He's asked, so what time do you think you got up on Saturday morning? And he takes a long time to answer this question. Why is that? Why does he not know? Specifically, he woke up and found out that his girlfriend was missing, wasn't there, and was never to be seen again. And yet he wants to, I don't know, think about what is the right answer to give to this question. Is it what is going to be the one that fits in with the evidence that is known, or that fits in with the call logs or ring videos or whatever it is? I don't know what he's thinking about, but it takes him a long time to answer a very simple question. What time do you think you got up on Saturday morning? And he says, I probably woke up around, in between that time, like 6 or 7 o'clock. Now look at how vague that is. It is wide open as to what time. He's not committing to one at all. I probably. So there's some doubt there. I'm just going to give you an answer that's probable. It might not be actually the factual truth or even close to the factual truth. It's just, I'm going to tell you, it's probable. Woke up around. So again, if this is found to be not true at some point, he can go, I just said it was probably this and it was around that. Well, what does around mean? In between. So again, we've got a big, massive vagueness there. 6 or 7 o'clock. So he's asked what time he got up, and he gives one of the vaguest answers it's possible to give. What time do you think you got up on Saturday morning? I probably woke up around, in between that time, like 6 or 7 o'clock. So he has something to hide there. He does not want to be tied down to a time that he got up. And then he goes extra, because he's asked, what time do you think you got up at 7 o'clock in the morning? And his vagueness would at least have directly answered the question of, I probably got up between 6 and 7 o'clock. But he goes extra. And why is he doing that? Well, I think what time he got up is sensitive. So we've got a lot of sensitive things about this Saturday morning. We've got the phone calls that he doesn't deal with. And also we've got what time he got up in the morning. So he then goes extra. And I think this is just an off-ramp to talk about something else that he is happy talking about that causes him less stress than the time he got up. He says, and then I left. I did my normal thing, changed my clothes, put my clothes on, and headed out, shortly after that, Now, again, so much deception in here. You'll notice he left 2 times, because what he says is, I woke up and then I left. And then he tells us he did some other stuff and headed out. So twice he's saying he left. So I think this is not a true story, because he's telling us actions that happened twice. I left. Well, actually, I did some other stuff and then I left. You'll also see that he changed his clothes and then put his clothes on. So he got dressed twice in this telling of the story. So again, I don't believe this. This is constructed reality, I think. And then I left. Did my normal thing, Oh yeah, he's talking about the normal thing as well. Not what he did that morning. I just did the usual. What I always do. This is all about the usual. He's so at pains to tell us there was nothing unusual about that day, that I think there was something unusual that morning. I did my normal thing, change my clothes, put my clothes on. So change my clothes, put my clothes on, get dressed twice, and headed out. Yeah, left twice. Shortly after that, So in this answer, and man, I'm not liking this interview at all. He avoids the phone call question, which is really suspicious. He avoids talking about what time he woke up that morning. He's still talking in terms of the usual and what normally happens. He is hiding something about the phone calls that were made to him that Saturday morning, and hiding something about what happened and what time he got up. Let's get some more from this police interview.
So did you go do some work Saturday morning before you went to your mom's house? Before you went to the farm? Or what did you do Saturday morning?
No, I didn't. I didn't do any other work on Saturday morning. That's where I went out there to the farm. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly what time I got out there, but that's what I had done.
Mm-hmm. So you get up between 6 and 7, and where's Eli at when you wake up?
He's next to me.
He's in the bed with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get up. Does he get up with you?
He's still asleep whenever I get up, but I go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff, and he's still sleeping there on the bed. Mm-hmm.
He's asked, so did you do some work Saturday morning before you went to your mom's house, before you went to the farm? Mom's house is the farm, apparently. Or what did you do Saturday morning? So it's a very simple question. Did you do some work Saturday morning, or what did you do Saturday morning? And there is another long pause. This one's about 6 or 7 seconds long. So he, for some reason, can't answer that question quickly, which suggests, for some reason, he can't answer that question factually with that long pause. He says, no, I didn't do any other work Saturday morning. That's when I went out there to the farm, or maybe it's the barn, but I think it's the same thing, really. I don't know exactly what time I got out there, but that's what I had done. So let's break all of that down there. I didn't do any other work. Fine. That's all kind of straightforward. But then he goes extra. That's when I went out there to the farm. I don't know exactly what time I got out there. So we have, again, some hiding of time. Just like, what time did you get up? I don't know exactly what time I got out there. Well, you weren't asked about time, but you feel like you have to account for time here for some reason. And I don't know exactly what time I got out there. Well, you could give us a rough time then from talking about exactly what time. I see this a lot in police interviews. People talking about the exact time. They're kind of like they don't want to give any sort of time. So they'll say, I don't know exactly what time. And I believe that's true. They don't know exactly what time, as in 10:17 a.m. or something like that, rather than, round about 10:15. They just don't want to give an answer, and they'll phrase it as, I don't know the exact time, because it helps them out. They're not committing to any time at all and hiding it with the truth of, I don't know the exact time. But that's what I had done. So you get out between 6 and 7. Where's Eli when you wake? Now, this is interesting because you'll notice that he's spoken earlier about getting up and the fact that he got up, he left, he got changed, he went to the bathroom to get changed and so on. He doesn't mention that Crystal's not there, that this is when she disappeared. And he doesn't mention that at all when he talks about getting up. And he doesn't talk about Eli, the son, who I'm presuming, because Crystal wasn't there, he either felt like he had to do some care for, or was like, Crystal will sort this out. Oh, wait a minute, she's not there. None of this enters into his narrative at all, because he won't talk about the specifics of that morning. He'll talk about things in general. He doesn't even have any annoyance that, I don't know, was he supposed to go out on Saturday to the farm, and Crystal was supposed to be looking after Eli, or was it always that he was taking Eli with him? He hasn't mentioned any of those real considerations that would be top of your mind if you woke up and found out that she wasn't there at all. He doesn't even mention that Crystal wasn't there. He just is so busy talking in general that he doesn't give any specifics. So where's Eli at when you wake up? He's next to me. Believe that. It's very straightforward. Look, there's nothing extra compared to the length of some of his answers, compared to how non-specific in general some of his answers are. He's next to me is very straightforward. So I believe that. He's in the bed with you? Is what he says. Okay, so you get up. Does he get up with you? He still sleeps whenever I get up. So he's talking in general again. So he asked about the Saturday morning. Does he get up with you? And he talks in general. He still sleeps whenever I get up. So he's not talking about that morning. But I go to, the bathroom and all that kind of stuff, and he's still sleeping there on the bed. A little bit specific, but however, it's present tense. I go to the bathroom and he's still sleeping there on the bed. So this suggests that it could be made up. Look, when someone tells past events in present tense, it isn't always a lie, but there's enough going on with this guy to say, I don't believe he's telling me the truth whatsoever. So here in this section, the timings are suspicious. He really doesn't want to be tied down to any times or timings on this Saturday morning. And there's more hiding talk about what went on inside the home that morning. You'll notice he has not mentioned the fact once that Crystal is not there. That is extremely suspicious. Still to come, he keeps talking and will go on a rant that lasts for an unbelievable amount of time. I'll tell you how long it is in a bit. Do you ever feel that you're not being told the full story? You're right. You can see it happening here, where he's talking in general rather than talking specifically. And it's happening all the time to us in other areas of our life. And this is about giving you the key to seeing deeper. It's about hearing the world with new ears. And I'm on a mission to share this skill with as many people as possible. So you can get this secret. You can subscribe subscribe or follow this channel. That means you get regular updates like this. You get a treasure trove of archives and police interviews to have a look at. There is just so much waiting to be explored and to learn from. Or do you know someone who needs this, someone who would benefit from hearing the truth in their lives? Then what you can do is hit the like button, share this with them, or recommend it. Even just leave a comment, because all of that fuels the fire. The more that I get, it allows me to analyze deeper and bring this life-changing skill to even more people. So get on board and learn this life-changing skill, or share it with someone else. It's a great gift to give. Let's go back into the police interview room and hear more from Brooks Houck.
And so when you wake up, he's there, but Crystal's not.
She's not.
Okay. And so did you try to call her, or?
Yes, I noticed that she wasn't there, and I didn't know exactly what to think. I don't know what time I called her. Yes, I called her that morning.
I mean, did you call her before you left the house to go to the farm?
I don't remember what time I called her.
But do you remember where you were at? Were you at home or were you at the farm? Or you were on the way to the farm? I don't know, somewhere in between.
I don't recall. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
So now we get into the fact that he hasn't mentioned that Crystal was missing. And so when you wake up, he's there, but Crystal's not, is what the detective asks. And he says she's not. Short, sharp answer. Factual. I believe that. Crystal was not there when he woke up on Saturday. And so did you try and call her? Yes, he says. Now, it's a yes-no question. Did you try and call her? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. And he says yes straight away. So I believe he made a phone call to Crystal's phone. That's all he needed to say. And yet he goes extra and gives more. I noticed that she wasn't there. Interesting that he's telling us that he noticed she wasn't there, not that she wasn't there. Just a factual thing. Crystal wasn't there. It's, I noticed she wasn't there. Kind of like, oh, I noticed you've got a new haircut. It's something that comes along and gets you, oh yeah, or I noticed you've got a new jacket on. It's not, she wasn't there, and that was unexpected. It's, oh, I noticed she wasn't there. And I didn't know exactly what to think. Well, think she's not there. Maybe the thing to think is, where is she? Doesn't all hang together once more. I don't know what time I called her. Now, was he asked what time he tried to call her? No, he wasn't asked what time he tried to call her. So once again, time is sensitive here, and he's getting ahead of things here and saying, I don't know what time I called her. Yes, I called her that morning. He's then said, did you call her before? He's then asked, did you call her before you left the house to go to the farm? He says, I don't remember what time. I don't remember what time I called her. So he's really, really wanting to say, I don't remember what time I called her. And you can see, compared to some of the long pauses where he tries to work things out, he's very adamant. He's not going to try and work this one out in his head. He's going to tell us, I don't remember what time I called her. But you do remember where you were at. Were you at home, or were you at the farm, or were you on the way to the farm? I don't know. Were you somewhere in between, is what the detective asks. And he says, I don't recall. I don't know. So here he really doesn't want to be committed to a time that he called Crystal. Why is that? I don't know. But for some reason, he does not want to be tied down once more to a time of something that Saturday morning. Now here, he had to be prompted to say that Crystal wasn't there. He's carried on telling the story, and he has to be asked, oh, by the way, was Crystal there? And you'll notice no emotion coming through there at all. His girlfriend wasn't there, and just no emotion tied to it at all. Worry, anger, sadness, concern, all valid emotions that could be there, but no emotion striked at all. Now, the next question you're going to hear from the detective will cause an answer that is 6 minutes long. 6 minutes worth of Brooks talking on the back of one question. Why is that? Well, you'll listen to the question. It could be that Brooks is like, this question is really sensitive. I don't want any more of these questions, so I'm just going to talk and talk and talk and talk to avoid any more questions like this. It could be that he is on the verge of breaking, and this is just words coming out that are all important to him. We're not going to listen to all 6 minutes of it. We'll pause it, we'll break it down, and we'll look at some of the things he says in this 6 minute answer. But the one thing we can say is the question you're about to hear is entirely sensitive to Brooks.
For me, it would be normal, particularly if my wife's a late sleeper, which mine is as well on Saturdays, for her to be there in the bed when I get up. So if she were not, probably the first thing I would do would be to call her to find out where she was.
But what you're not aware, what you're missing is a lot of times that her and Brooke, her sister, or Sabrina, a lot of these girls that they do all these, they go out and do stuff. Sometimes they do these, and this is going to be embarrassing for me to talk to you about, but I'm wanting to get everything cleared up as quickly as I can. They do these fantasy parties. All these girls get together. They talk about and do whatever, and it's not uncommon for them when they go out and party, they stay out the better part of the night, if not the whole night. So, and of course, I always have the children, during that. They don't take the kids to that. Matter of fact, I take care of some of their other children while they're the ones going. It's not uncommon because they know I don't get into all that stuff, and they know that I'm a man, don't get me wrong. Understand that, a white-blooded American male, and there's no sense, I'm not telling you anything different, but they do all these parties and order all this stuff. Well, who gets the kids? I'm good enough to get the kids for all this, and I'm a good enough person to do that. And then when everybody sees a little bit of distress, they're going to throw me under the bus.
Wow. That is an answer and a half, and that question is very, very sensitive to Brooks. Policeman says, for me, it would be normal, particularly if my wife's a late sleeper, which mine is as well on Saturdays, for her to be there in bed when I get up. So if she were not, probably the first thing I would do would be to call her to find out where she was. And that sparks a 6-minute answer. We won't hear from the police guy again, I don't think, in the rest of this episode. Brooks is very sensitive to that question, and therefore goes on, I think, a very defensive rant. He starts off with saying, but what you're not aware, what you're missing, so this is controlling language here. He's saying, you don't have the full picture here. I have the full picture. You need to listen to me because you're not aware of some stuff. You're making judgments and you're not aware of things. You're missing things. You're judging me without the full picture. Let me give you the full picture to try and take down the heat and the accusation of that question. And he says, what you're missing is a lot of times that her and Brooke, her sister, or Sabrina, a lot of these girls, they all do they go out and do stuff. So what you're missing is a lot of times. So again, it's in general. It's not every time or it's highly possible. It's these things happen a lot of times that her and Brooke, her sister, or Sabrina, a lot of these girls, they do all those, they go out and do stuff. Well, that's not very specific, is it? Or is so general as to have no meaning. A lot of times, a lot of these girls, so it's not even a specific group of people, they all do these. They go out and do stuff. So what we're missing is sometimes stuff happens. That's really what he's saying. So this is not convincing at all. Sometimes they do these, and then he says, this is going to be embarrassing for me to talk to you about. Now, I want to know what was embarrassing. I didn't hear anything particularly embarrassing in there. These people like to go out to party, and while they're doing that, he's looking after kids. That seems virtuous to me, but he says it's going to be embarrassing for him to talk about. I wonder as well if this is a little bit like, look, I'm telling you something that is embarrassing to me, so therefore I'm being vulnerable. So I'm a nice guy. I'm open up to you. I'm being honest. So therefore, believe me, I must be telling you the truth. I wonder if that's why he's saying, this is going to be embarrassing for me to talk to you about because we don't get what is embarrassing here. But I want to get everything cleared up as quickly as I can. Cleared up is interesting there. That's really saying I want to get off the hook. I want the suspicion to go away on me. It's not I want Crystal found, you'll notice. It's not I want to give you information that is helpful so we can find out where Crystal has been or where she is now. It's none of that whatsoever. It's I want to get everything cleared up, i.e. he wants to get out from under this. I think that is his priority, and he says it there in his words because look, he's losing his cool. So when he's cool, it's very easy to deflect and talk about some extra things. It's very easy to talk in general rather than talking about the specifics and look as if you're being helpful, look as if you're giving a lot of information. But he's starting to get stressed. He's starting to lose his cool. And that's when we'll pick words automatically rather than thinking about them and qualifying them and thinking what's the right thing to say. And I think this is what's going on here. So things are just popping out of his head through no sort of filter. And that's where I think cleared up has come from. It's not I want Crystal found, it's I want everything cleared up. And then he says they do these fantasy parties. Now, Sorry, I have no idea what a fantasy party is. So I don't know why it's embarrassing to know that these fantasy parties are happening and they go to these fantasy parties. I mean, if you do know, let me know in the comments or get in touch on social media. What are these fantasy parties that Crystal and the girls were apparently going to? I have no idea, but for some reason, he thinks these are embarrassing to talk about. All these girls get together, they talk about and do whatever. So all these girls get together, which girls, they talk about and do whatever. Really, 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 really vague and general. And it's not uncommon for them when they go out and party to stay out the better part of a night. So once more, we have this phrase from him, not uncommon. It's not they're regularly doing this. They do this often. They do this once a month. They do this every week. He's not setting a tone for it. He's saying it's not uncommon. Once more, I think it is uncommon. Potentially it happened once or twice, but he's now going to say it's not uncommon because therefore it gives the fact that he wasn't that worried that his girlfriend wasn't there that morning, as is evidenced maybe by his call logs or so on. It gives that some credence. It's not uncommon for them when they go out and party to stay out the better part of the night. Now, this is something Brooks does a lot inside this rant. He says something and then realizes it doesn't really help him out at all. So he will then say something that's different afterwards. So that's what we've got here. Because if you think about it, if they stay out the better part of the night, then he's saying he woke up between 6 or 7. So if they stayed out the better part of the night, what's that, getting home at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, maybe even 4 o'clock? That would be staying out the better part of the night. So she would be there when he woke up between 6 and 7. He realizes that doesn't hang together. So then he goes, if not the whole night, therefore, he is now, feels like he's covering himself, but the first thing he said was they stay out the better part of the night. So look, what I think he's talking about is this general situation where Crystal went out with her sister or friends and sometimes would come back very late, but he realizes that means she would be there in the morning. Therefore, he has to correct himself in his words and say something different, which is if not the whole night. You notice it's stay out, it's not come home. It's not unusual. This happens so regularly. I wake up on a Saturday morning and Crystal's not there because she stayed out the whole night. He can't verbalize it that way. It has to be this quite convoluted way of saying they stay out for the better part of the night, if not the whole night. So, and of course, I always have the children. Of course, you always have the children. Of course, is convincing language. It's like, of course, I always have the children because, hey, I'm a nice guy. And that's what we're getting into here is resume statements. Look, I let her go out, enjoy herself with her sister, and I look after the kids. You know, fair enough. They don't take the kids to that. They don't take the kids to a fantasy party that can last all night, sometimes the whole night. Of course, they don't take the kids there. Don't believe this story at all. As a matter of fact, I take care of some of their other children while they're the ones going. It's not uncommon because I know I don't get into all that stuff and they know that. Wow. Word salad, but what he's saying there is, number one, I take care of the other children too. Hey, what a nice guy I am. I care for all these children while they all go out. And it's not uncommon. So once again, I think he's probably done it once. It's not uncommon. It's not, I'm regularly doing this. I do this every week. I do this every month. It's not uncommon. And then he says the strangest thing, and I wonder if this is tied to what fantasy parties actually are. And they know that I'm a man. Don't get me wrong. Understand that. A white-blooded American male. Why does he feel the need to tell us that? I don't know at all. I think, is this what's embarrassing? Is that the girls go out and party and he stays and looks after the kids? Is that what's really embarrassing to him? Don't know. And there's no sense. I'm not going to tell you anything different, but they do all these parties and order all this stuff. This stuff? Again, what is he talking about? Well, who gets the kids? I'm good enough to get the kids for all this, and I'm a good enough person to do that. So we've got resume statement coming here. Look, when my girlfriend wants to go out and party, I look after the kids. Therefore, I cannot possibly be involved in her disappearance anyway, is the subtext to what he's saying. Why does he feel the need to say all of this? Why does he feel the need to tell us how good he is? And then when everybody sees a little bit of distress, they're going to throw me under the bus. Huge jump there. What distress? Your girlfriend's missing? Of course you'd be distressed. When everybody sees a little bit of distress, they're going to throw me under the bus. What I think here is that he's losing his cool and stuff is coming out of his head that is directly what he's thinking about and what his priority is about, which is that people are suspicious of him, and he's letting that all rise, and there's no filter there. He's not thinking long and hard about his words now. It's coming out without a filter. So here we've got resume statements. What a great guy I am. I can't possibly be involved in the disappearance. He talks in general again. It's all these parties, and as I look after the kids there, he is starting to shake. You can see that the filter has been closed off and words are starting to come out there. Let's go back into the police interview room and another part of this 6-minute rant.
What I've got to be faced with now is as good a mother as Crystal's been. Now, nobody's going to love you like a mother. Now, Eli is in an atmosphere where I've got all the hope in the world, but now I'm a single parent, it appears to me, where she's been there 100% of the time for him to raise and rear him, where I know that he didn't have to go to a daycare or a babysitter, and I know that his mother is going to take care of him. And now, where am I at without that love and support from her? Mm-hmm. Now I've got a little boy who's 2, who's going to grow up his life. If something's not done where she's not brought back safely, now one of the very most important people in his life, he's got to grow up without.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm in here answering a bunch of bullshit that I'm doing the best that I can possibly do with, but it's taken a lot of energy and effort away from the other efforts that could be out there trying to help and bring her back here safely. I can't even go out on the side of the road without looking like a murderer or something like that. It's wrong. I've been extremely honest with you all, and now I'm up here doing all they can have the house. Y'all take anything that you want. You don't need any of that paperwork or search warrants. And now I'm up here trying to get my head where I can be on the side of being able to protect myself and defend myself for my son whenever I'm the one that's, I feel like, has the largest loss.
He's really starting to lose it. He continues. What I've got to be faced with now is, as good a mother as Crystal has been, now nobody's going to love you like a mother. So what I'm faced with now is, as good a mother as Crystal's been, now nobody's going to love you like a mother. Let's go into that phrase first of all. As good a mother as Crystal's been. That suggests to me that he has some issues with Crystal's mothering skills. As good a mother as Crystal's been suggests that she has been a good mother, but there are better out there. You know, as good as this car's been, I'm going to have to get a new one. As good as that restaurant is, I'd rather go to another one. As good a mother as Crystal's been is backhanded compliment almost. And now, nobody's going to love you like a mother. Nobody's going to love you like a mother. Nobody's going to love Eli like his mother. Nobody's going to love Eli like Crystal. He just pulls out into a very general sense there. So I think he has some issues with Crystal's mothering of Eli there, and that is what's coming out in his words. Now Eli's in an atmosphere where, and this is one of the most damning things he says in this police interview, I've got all the hope in the world, but now I'm a single parent. So if you have all the hope in the world, you would think that Crystal's going to come back, that Crystal's going to realise that she didn't mean to leave you, or she's going to say, can we do some shared parenting, or I want to have Eli full time because you're a rotten father. All of those things could be going on if you had all the hope in the world. Or even Crystal's like, I had an accident, I was in hospital, no one could find me. No, all the hope in the world runs down to, I'm a single parent. If you actually run through those words, his hope is that he's a single parent, that Crystal is never coming back. I've got all the hope in the world, but now I'm a single parent. And then this is one of those things where I think he realizes he said something that he didn't mean to say, and he tries to roll back on it, very much like they stay out the better part of the night, sometimes the whole night. I'm a single parent. It appears to me, i.e., look, I think I'm going to be a single parent here. It appears to me that I have no knowledge that she's not coming back. This is what it feels like. This is what it appears like to me. Again, at odds with I've all the hope in the world. where she's been there 100% of the time for him to raise and rear him, where I know that they didn't have to go to daycare or a babysitter. Interesting, he said he spent a lot of time looking after Eli in the previous answer. However, she's been there 100% of the time. Sounds like a glorified babysitter rather than a mother. He doesn't seem to have much truck with her mothering skills, but she had time there for him. And I know that his mother is going to take care of him. So that was him saying, look, Eli could be looked after by Crystal. I didn't have to worry about it. She was like a childcare to me. And now, where am I without that love and support from her? Well, how do you know it's gone? She's missing at the moment. She could be found. She could turn up. She could decide to come home. But no. He's letting us know in his head, he thinks Crystal is gone forever. Where am I without that love and support from her? Now I've got a little boy who's 2 and who's going to grow up in his life. If something's not done or she's not back safely, now one of the most important people in his life, he's got to grow up without. So the concept is there. Again, he doesn't think Crystal is going to come back at all. He qualifies it because he realizes he's about to say something that's potentially incriminating. I've got a little boy who's 2 who's going to grow up without his mother. Why do you think his mother's not coming back? Would be the next question. So he qualifies it around if something's not done or she's not brought back safely. Brought back safely infers that the Crystal is not going to come back on her own. She's not going to go, I've been missing for long enough now, or I really miss Eli, so I'm going to go back and see him. No, she's got to be brought back safely. She's not going to come back of her own accord. You see what I'm saying? He says, and I'm here answering a bunch of bullshit that I'm doing the best I can possibly do with. Mate, you were asked what time you called her, and you were asked, why did you not call straight away? That's not a bunch of bullshit. That's just helping out this investigation into finding your missing partner. You should have no problems answering any of these questions, and you shouldn't be calling these questions bullshit. I'm doing the best that I can possibly do with, is what he says about the questions. Not, why does he have to tell us he's doing the best? Probably because he's not. Probably because we know he's hiding something. And probably because he knows he's hiding something. So doing the best is a personal definition. It's not the most open. It's not the most honest. It's not giving the most information that will help the investigation. It's he's doing the best to answer the questions that he can. Because if he answers the questions fully, he will get in trouble. He will be at least asked more harder questions. So he's talking about doing the best for himself. The best I can possibly do with is talk about in general and hide stuff. But it's taken a lot of energy, he said, and effort away from other efforts that could be out there trying to help and bring her back here safely. So what he's talking about here, what the impression that he wants to give is, every moment you're asking me these dumbass questions, you're not searching for Crystal. We're not looking for where she is. However, look at how futile he thinks the search for Crystal is. There will be efforts to find her. Efforts, i.e. effort, trying, failing, trying to bring her back here safely, yet trying again. So trying always implies failure. Bring her back once more. Crystal is not going to come back of her own accord. And then why does he put the word safely in there? Why not just bring her back safely? It doesn't add anything to the meaning of what he's trying to say, which is frankly low meaning because it's all about efforts and trying to bring her back. But safely suggests that he knows that Crystal faced an element of danger. And then he carries on. It's so extra, it's unbelievable. I can't even go out on the side of the road without looking like a murderer or something like that. It's wrong. I've been extremely honest with y'all. He doesn't say, I can't even go outside without being accused of murder or without someone looking at me like they think I've murdered something. He actually says he looks like a murderer. He says, I walk out in the street and I look like a murderer. Why would you feel that if you walked out in the street, you looked like a murderer? I've been extremely honest with you all. So this is him. Again, it's that sort of resume statement. Why do they need to say you've been extremely honest with us? Why do they need to say you've been honest at all? Why? Well, it's because you haven't been extremely honest, but you want to convince and persuade the detective that you have been extremely honest. Back off from asking me all these sensitive questions because I've already been extremely honest. And now I'm up here doing all that, and then he makes some weird noises with his mouth. Have the house. I'll take anything you want. You don't need any of that paperwork or search warrants. And now I'm up here trying to get my head where I can be on the side of being able to protect myself and defend myself for my son. Try to be on the side of being able to find your partner, find your girlfriend. Find Crystal might even be something that would be more expected to be said there if you thought there was a chance that Crystal could be found, if you thought there was some way that Crystal would be coming back. And defend myself for my son. So his priority, as he says it there, is protect myself. And then again, I think this is one of the things where he realises, I kind of said the wrong thing here. I've said I'm the priority. I better repeat what I said, but add in the other person. Defend myself for my son. Oh, that's better that I've mentioned Eli, so I seem like a great guy again. I'm the one that I feel has the largest loss. Well, aren't you the victim of your girlfriend going missing? So here, as much as he tries to cover it up with all the talk and all the, I need to say this, it appears to me and so on, he knows that she's dead. He knows that Crystal isn't coming back. Let's go back into the interview room.
So now, do what you got to do. I'll do whatever I can, but this is starting to get silly. I don't need an attorney. I haven't asked for an attorney. I don't need none of that. I'm innocent. I'm willing to talk to whoever. But this to me is really starting to get silly, because I feel like, I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have time to get on the internet. I don't know a lot about computers. Crystal did all that for me. I didn't have to do it because that's something else that she always took care of. So now I have people coming back to me telling me that they're completely trashing me online for the whole media. You know, I've taken 17 years of my life, and I feel like I've worked hard to get a good education. I've worked hard all these years. I've built a nice life for me and my family, and now my whole family's name is trashed for something that's completely not even tied to me. That's where I'm at right now. So I'm extremely upset. I'm hurt over it. I try to put on a tough shell and a bubble and move forward. It's extremely difficult to get up in the morning and push on and look at Eli and know that here I've got a million things going on that I have to get done. And then who's going to suffer? He is, and it's not right. I'm ready to hire an auctioneer to sell all this stuff so I can be there for him like Chris.
And that was kind of the end of the rant. He carries on saying, do what you've got to do. I'll do whatever I can, but this is starting to get silly. I don't need an attorney. So we've got opposing things going on here. I'll do whatever I can. It's not I'll do anything. It's just I'll do whatever I can. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean that you'll do whatever you can to keep yourself safe, or whatever you can to find Crystal? But this is starting to get silly. I don't need an attorney. Now, which is it? Do what you got to do, or this is getting silly, do something else. I haven't asked for an attorney. I don't think none of that. I'm innocent. Very short thing there. I'm innocent. Kind of believable there, but innocent of what he doesn't say. I'm willing to talk to whoever, but this is me. This to me is really starting to get silly, because I feel like I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have time to get on the internet. Just big jump in concept there, because he realizes, again, what he's trying to say is, I'll do whatever, I'll be as helpful as I possibly can, but not in this way. Look, this is silly, move on here. This is not something I want to do. He's just not hanging together congruently. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't have time to get on the internet. Again, is this sort of a slightly resume thing about how hard I work? I don't have time to get on the internet. I don't know a lot about computers. Crystal did all that for me. I didn't have time to do it because that's something else she always took care of. A couple of things there. Again, we've got Crystal as a sort of babysitter for him, as the sort of person that looked after his kids, looked after his computing life as well. You know, like Crystal seemed to be there as a kind of servant to Brooks, rather than as a life partner, as someone that he did a lot of things with. Also, past tense there. Not Crystal does all that for me. That's something she takes care of. Past tense. Crystal did all that for me. I don't have time to do it because that's something else she always took care of. More insinuation in his language there that he knows that Crystal's not coming back, i.e. dead. So now I have people coming back to me telling me they're completely trashing me online for the whole media, you know. I've taken 17 years of my life and I feel like I've worked hard to get a good education. I've worked hard all these years. I've built a nice life for me and my family. Resume statement time again. Here he's saying, what a great guy I am. I work hard. I built a nice life for me and my family. It's been 17 years that I've been working hard. And now my whole family name is trashed for something that's completely not even tied to me. That's where I'm at right now. Lot to unpack in that, but for something that's completely, so that's persuasive. It's not just something that's not tied to me. It's completely not tied to me. He's trying to really show us how not tied to him this thing is, and not even tied to me. That just says to me that's something you haven't managed to pin on me yet. You haven't managed to tie it to me yet. It's not something that I didn't do. It's not my family name is trashed for something that I didn't do or because of suspicions that are ungrounded that people don't have on me. It's the fact that it's something that's not been tied to me, i.e. I've got away with it so far. That's where I am right now. So I'm extremely upset. I'm hurt over it. I tried to put on a tough shell and bubble and move forward. Believe that. He does look upset. But why is he upset? I'm hurt over it. I believe that as well. But why is he hurt over it? It's extremely difficult to get up in the morning and push on and look at Eli. I believe that as well. Just don't believe it's the reasons for what you said. Why would you find it hard to look at your son if you were doing the very best that you had for him? If all these false accusations were going around, then you will surely just look at your son and go, weren't me. But he finds it extremely difficult to get up in the morning and look at Eli and know that I've got a million things going on that I have to get done. And then who's going to suffer? He is. All true, just not from the angle that he wants us to think it's true. And that's not right. I'm ready to hire an auctioneer and sell this stuff so I can be there for him like Crystal. So that is, again, this concept of Crystal as the mother figure, the fact that he really didn't do very much for Eli. And potentially now that Crystal's no longer around, he is learning everything that entails. So there you go. That is just me looking through about 15 minutes of this nearly 2-hour police interview. Like I say, if you want some more of it, then do let me know in the comments. I'll also see if this gets the views and likes that suggest there's a lot of interest in this Crystal Rogers story. But Brooks, wow. One of the most deceptive police interviews I've seen. In that section, I don't think he ever deliberately handed over the truth once, apart from maybe he went to bed when he got in that night. But he talks in general so often, avoiding the specifics. He is very sensitive around the time he got up the Saturday morning that Crystal was supposedly reported missing, and very sensitive about the time that he got up, the phone calls that he got up. And then the biggest, most damning thing is him saying he knows he's a single parent and talking about Crystal in the past tense. Look, I'll be watching the trial and the verdicts very closely, because from what I see there, Brooks has a lot of questions to answer. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments here or get in touch on the socials. Go to neveratruerword.com. That is the website. There you will find a whole load more videos, including a lot of police interrogations, some of them fascinating, and looking at the language that is used in them for deception, for the truth, and also for the motivations of someone. You'll find that at neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.